Hi, in this tutorial, we're going to show you the interface for Adobe Premiere 2024. This may not yet be installed on the workstations in the classroom. I'm working on upgrading them. However, this tour will work primarily regardless of the version. I'm not going to get into deep details and feature exploration. I'm just going to show you the basic user interface and where to find things. So when you launch Premiere, this is what you're going to see. Well, if you've never worked on anything, you're going to see this. So you'll see a big empty zone here. It's what they call the home screen. So this home right here, you can actually, open different existing projects if you already have one. There are other project types down here that we're not going to talk about. But notice the blue button right up here in the top left is New Project. So when you're starting to work in Premiere, you're going to want to create a project. You can't do anything in Premiere without a project. So when you click New Project, it takes you to this location here. Now, this is a sample tutorial project that Adobe provides. We're not going to probably use it, or maybe we will use it. What the heck? For purposes of this. And if you feel like it, I would encourage you to follow along. But notice that it has some useful information up top. The first is the project name. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like Untitled as the name of my projects. So I encourage you to come up with a useful title. So what for this project or for this tutorial, I would say, go ahead and use your name and just use First Premiere Project. Okay. And that way you have the starting point for a project name. The next thing is the location. And what you'll notice is under, now this obviously depends on whether you're on a Mac or on Windows, but generally speaking, it's going to take you to your user account and the documents folder that's under your user account. And it's going to have a pre-existing folder called Adobe, under which there's a folder called Premiere Pro and 24 as the version number. I would recommend that you don't use that exactly, but rather choose another location. In this case, what I'm going to suggest is that you go to the documents folder again. And this varies depending on whether you're in Windows or Mac, but navigate back to the documents folder and then create a new folder for your projects. I'm fond of using media projects as the name of the folder that I put my media projects into. And under there, you then could create a folder for Randy's or Randy First Premiere project, which matches the name of your project. Okay, so that's the name we put here, and it's also the name that we put in the folder. When we click choose, now you'll see that this is the folder that we're going to create that project in. The project template for purposes of this, we're just going to go with none because we're just trying to show some of the interface pieces. I'm just going to click on a few of these items in this project here, and notice that it's actually adding them here. I'm going to turn off creating a new sequence because I'm going to do that separately. But we want to copy the media to the folder, and maybe the rest of this we'll leave as is for now. But once you have all of these options selected, maybe you've chosen some different clips, that's fine. Click Create, and it will go and create this project for you. So the first order of business is that, well, apparently the Mac is now verifying it because it's the first time I've run it. And the first time you run this, you're going to basically be dropped into the Learn workspace, okay? And the idea behind Adobe Premiere is that it deals in workspaces. First and foremost, you notice that we started in the Import tab which was this one. And then we move now to the Edit tab, which is where we are now doing the job of starting to put together an edit. So these are kind of the phases of your project. So you have getting the media into your project, the edit, and then you have the export, which is the final step. In workspaces in Premiere, you've got this little button right here that you can do, which is located up in the top corner, the top right corner. It's got that little blue dot. And if you hover over it, you see it says workspaces. If you click on that, it brings up a whole set of different they are workspaces, but they're kind of different tasks inside of Premiere. Learning is great for like very, very basic stuff, but almost always I will have you guys working under the editing workspace as your base, as like your home base for working in Premiere. If you don't want to, or you don't remember to use this, you can also look under the window menu, and you'll find workspaces here, and you'll notice that it has the same list here. Notice that the list might be in a different order. I always encourage you, like I said, to use the editing workspace. So we're going to go there and click on that one. So here we are showing the basic layout of Premiere. And I'm going to start in the top left, and I'm going to kind of go clockwise. The first thing is that you have this top left pane. And anytime you click in one of these panes, you'll see that it's highlighted, and it's highlighted with this blue line around it. That blue line tells you that this is what you're focused on, and this is where you're working. The first tab up here is called the source viewer. Now, if you have a piece of media that you've selected, then you would see it in the source viewer. So to show something in the source viewer, you want to start with one of these clips down here. So we'll start with this one. This first one, it doesn't really matter which. But you notice as I double click on it, it brings it up into the source viewer, and now we've got media in this window to look at. The useful things to know is that you obviously have the window itself. You have the time code, which is where the playhead is positioned over here on the left, and you have the in-out duration, which is the length when there is no marker set for selecting a portion of it. It's going to tell you the entire time of the clip, and this is measured in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So frames is an interesting notion here, that these are how many frames that you have in between 1 second boundary. Now, this particular media clip, I believe, is 30 frames a second. So if we scroll, actually, nope, it's 24. So notice that it goes from 0. If you notice looking over here, you'll see it goes from 0 to 23, and then rolls over to 0 to 1 second. So this is 1 second of video is 24 frames of video. Usually you guys are going to work in 30 frames per second, but it's fine. Actually, I love working in 24 frames per second. It's the most cinematic look. It's going to look the most like you would see if you were watching a movie in a theater. So notice that I'm dragging this blue indicator. This is the playhead, okay? The playhead will move from the first frame to the last. You have all of these other controls here. We will talk about them later. But for now, I want to move on to, you have other tabs here also. I want to just show you the effects controls tab, which is where you will set different attributes of clips that are in a sequence. You have the audio clip mixer, which is the same thing. It's for setting audio levels inside of a sequence. And then you have the metadata, which I won't talk about other than just showing it to you that it exists here, and you can find critical or interesting information about the different media files. Now let's move over to the top right. You'll see that there's the program tab. Now, notice it says no sequences. That's because we don't have a sequence in play yet. We'll create one in a future tutorial, but if you had a program, if you had a sequence loaded, you would see that the contents of that sequence in this tab here. Notice that it also has a playhead position and also an in-out duration, just like the source viewer. So if I go back over to the source viewer, it's the same positions as this. It also has a playhead indicator that is currently disabled because there's no sequence. Moving down to the bottom right, you see that there's an audio meter. This is going to tell you the main audio program audio levels that you hear coming into that are basically part of the sequence. And because there's no audio currently loaded, there's no you don't hear anything or you don't see any audio levels there. I do believe that if you are playing out of the source, it will show you the audio meters play for that clip. But as this does not appear to have any sound, I guess we won't have any sound to play with there. Continuing our clockwise rotation, we're now in the timeline window. The timeline panel really is just for displaying a sequence. Notice again, there's no sequence loaded, so it says no sequences. Finally, in this corner, we have the, actually, I overlooked this. You have the tool palette. This is this panel here. Notice that you have different tools that you can use inside of Premiere. The one that you're going to use most often in this program is called the selection tool, which is the little top arrow right there. You actually can use a keyboard shortcut to get to it, and that is the letter V on your keyboard. Next, and finally, we have the project panel, which shows you all of the media clips that are in your project. The next most useful tab in this one is called Media Browser, and that allows you to see all of the locations of different media locations for whether you're going to pull some media off of your own computer or off of maybe the classroom file server, and that'll be in a future video. Libraries is a way for you to create a personalized storage of assets or clips and images and things of that nature. We don't use it in this class. If you choose to use it, you're on your own. We have an info tab, which really coincides with if you have something selected, in this case, the source viewer, this is going to tell you things about that item that you've selected. There are effects that are inside of Premiere, and that is that you can reach them from the effects tab. Notice that there's no menu up here that says effects. The only place that you can actually apply effects in Premiere is using the effects tab that is in the user interface. Markers, again, we're not going to really talk much about markers early on. We might get to it in a later tutorial, but these are where you would find markers for the current clip. Finally, in this, you have the history of this particular project. This is only the history from the time that you opened the project. So if you save a project and close it and then reopen it, the history will be empty and you will lose all sorts of undue information. So if you save and close the project, you will lose all of your history information, just to be super clear. Now, history is really useful because every action that you take inside of Premiere stacks actions into this history. So you have the ability to roll back and kind of go back in time to a point earlier in your work period that you can get back to if you need to. If you accidentally delete something, or if you made a mistake and you realized it later on, you can roll back in time to a previous step in that project. But remember, if you save it and close the project, you lose this history. This history is only active while the app is open and you have the project open. If you close Premiere, you lose that history. So keep that in mind if you are going to use the ability to go back in time and fix mistakes. There are this little double caret here will show you all of the tabs that you have if you want to go back to the project here. This is the basic way of using Premiere. There are plenty of other things that we will see in this in future tutorials and future kind of walkthroughs that I do for you. But this is the basic way of using Premiere in our class. So get used to it. Look for the next tutorial, which should be how to do basic editing in Premiere, and that'll be what we see next. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.